Welcome to the Sermon in the Valley with Pastor Rob Eller. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends and family. Thank you. Hello everyone out there, Pastor Rob Eller here with a Thursday episode of the Sermon in the Valley. Today's episode is one that I've been mulling over for a little while. Trying to think how I wanted to approach it, what I wanted to look at. I think I finally have it figured out, so here we go. I can do all things through a Bible verse taken out of context. I bet I had you there for a moment, didn't I? Starting off with what sounds like a Bible verse that we've seen or heard many, many times, but ending in a way that you probably did not expect it. Today's topic is about taking Bible verses out of context. Now, we've all probably fallen in that trap. Whether we've done it intentionally, to twist what we see to fit our agenda or to make it sound good for us, or maybe just unintentionally. We are reading something and we see, oh, that sounds pretty good. I'll quote that because that inspires me or that makes me feel good. And we do that without taking a deeper look at the verses surrounding that verse we pulled out, or getting a better understanding of what that verse actually means. The Bible is really a small library made up of multiple books, written by various people throughout time. Some of them are connected, some of them are not. And in fact, even the Bible that we use in the Protestant Church isn't even really a complete Bible, if you think about it. The Catholic Church uses an expanded Bible with a section known as the Apocrypha, which are other readings that other churches don't hold as canon. So there's a lot out there, and we read it for inspiration, for comfort, to help us get through difficult periods in our lives. To see maybe, okay, how did Jesus approach this situation? What did Jesus have to say about that? What did St. Paul have to write about it in his letters? What did the prophets have to write about it? It's a book that is central to the Christian faith. The first 2/3 of the Bible, the Old Testament, are essential to the Jewish faith because that is their scriptures. And even the Muslim faith uses the Bible as reference. So how do we go about looking at the Bible in a proper way? Well, I'm going to use a term here it's not to be smart with it, but it's a term that we learned in seminary. It's called hermeneutics. And it is basically knowledge that deals with the interpretation of the Bible. To put it in layman's terms, and something we've heard, probably all heard in our schooling, context clues. It's all about knowing the context of what is written. And that can be done in many ways. You can look at the verses that come before and after to get a better picture of what all is being said. In my case, I like to look at the historical perspective of it. What was happening in history when that particular scripture was written, or who was it being written to? What was happening at that point? Often when I look at the writings of the prophets, I look at, okay, what exile was happening? Was it the Babylonian exile? Was it the Assyrian exile? What was happening? And then when I'm looking at the Gospels, I look at, okay, what was happening in the Roman Empire when this Gospel was written? Was it the siege on Jerusalem? Was it X, Y, or Z. I mean, I look at what was happening in that time to better understand what was being written. Because there are some things that are written that might not make sense to us now, but made perfect sense to the audience they were being written to 2,000 years ago. It all depends. So today I want to go through some commonly misinterpreted or taken out of context Bible verses, starting with that very famous one I alluded to in the beginning. From St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. We tend to see this as inspirational posters, like saying, oh yeah, I can do, God gives me the strength. He just gives me the strength. I can do anything. And oddly enough, we see this verse tied with images of like people like lifting weights or working out, thinking that, oh yeah, I can become a strong person through God. And that's really not what St. Paul was getting at when he was closing his letter to the Philippians. In the verses coming before that, Paul is saying that, I'm content. I'm content with what I have. I'm content with what I've done. And I'm content because of my faith. That's what he's trying to tell the people at the end of his letter. Be content. Be content like I am. I'm content because of my faith. I'm content because of God. And you know what? You can be as well. I mean, we go back just one verse. Actually, let's go back 2 verses. To verse 11. Not that I am referencing to being in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have. I know what it is to have little, and I know what it is to have plenty. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. In any case, it was kind of you to share my distress. Paul is thanking the church in Philippi for helping him, saying, I know what it's like to go on hunger. I know what it's like to have more than enough. But thank you for helping me through this. I am content now, so thank you. That is what Paul's trying to say. Not that, oh yeah, as long as I believe, I can do this. That verse, taken out of context, has become a popular verse among those who subscribe to the idea of prosperity gospel. That as long as you believe, and as long as you have enough faith, you'll be blessed with anything you want. That's not what is happening. Prosperity gospel is a false gospel. Nowhere in the Bible does it say, as long as you have enough faith, you will be blessed. That's not how it works. Nothing in scriptures promises us wealth and all that stuff. No. We're given the gift of forgiveness and grace because we believe. And it doesn't matter how much you believe. You can have the faith the size of a mustard seed or faith the size of a mountain. As long as you have that faith, you have that reward of grace. Not even a reward, it's a gift of grace. Prosperity gospel likes to latch onto that as one of their central tenets, and that's just not the case at all. Continuing on with another writing from St. Paul, we go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Now, this is actually a verse taken out of context. This is a verse paraphrased down to its meaning being completely misinterpreted. We've all heard the phrase, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. But that's not in the Bible. Here's what St. Paul actually said. This is the verse I was paraphrasing, and then I'll expand more on it. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength. But with the testing, he will also provide the way out, so that you may be able to endure it. It's not saying that God won't give you more than you can handle. It's saying, yes, you will be tested. You'll be tested to your limit. But guess what? God will also provide you a way out of that. If God sees you are being pushed beyond your limit, God will provide you a way out. Now, it's up to you if you want to take that way out, but God will provide you a way out. It's not saying God will never do that to you. It's saying that if it happens, God will provide an out for you. I really hate when people try to insert scripture into the Bible, and that's one of the big ones right there. And when you go back further into the readings, you realize that Paul's actually talking, for that verse in particular, about the history of Israel and all the struggles they have gone through. And say, you know what? Yeah, you've been tested. You have been tested. But God will provide you a way out in case you are overwhelmed. Moving right along, we go into the Gospels now, with things that have been misinterpreted for what Jesus had said. And some of these are really a doozy. And I mean really, really a doozy. We are in Mark chapter 10. Let's see where we're at with this one. Mark chapter 10, verse 27. Jesus looked at them and said, "For mortals it is impossible, but not for God. For God all things are possible." For God all things are possible. Thinking that, no, if you just ask God, God will provide you with anything you want, because with God all things are possible. That is not what it's being talked about. That is not at all. That's one little excerpt out of in the Gospel of Mark about the rich man wanting to become a follower of Jesus. That one is taken out of context so much, and it is so annoying when it is. It's not saying that, no. It's saying that to be saved is, our salvation. It's impossible for us as mortals to be saved. But because of God, it's possible. It's not saying anything. It's not making a limitless bound. It's not saying anything is possible. It's just saying salvation. We as mortals, it's impossible for us on our own accord to be saved. That's why God stepped in. And that's exactly what it's saying. Because of God, we can be saved. And again, this is another one of those prosperity things of, no, God can do anything for us. You ask, God can do it. And that's just not true. It's frustratingly not true. When we take the Bible out of context, it can become dangerous. It can turn something that's supposed to make you feel good into a weapon, and that's been done too. When you look back through the Old Testament, talking about the biblical slavery, that's been used to justify slavery in modern time. That's what was used to justify slavery here in the United States. It was like, it's right here in the Bible. It's fine. It's right here in the Bible. No. Because we cherry-picked it out. We took it out of context. We used it as a weapon. The Bible should never be used as a weapon. The Bible is a book, is a collection of books about this great and wonderful faith and how we're loved by God and how we're saved through the sacrifice that Jesus made. That's what the Bible's about. It's not to be used as a weapon. It should be comforting to us. It should challenge our thinking. It should open our eyes. When you take Bible verses out of context, you can end up with some really, really horrible things and horribly funny things. So, I'm sure many of you have seen those, daily calendars, the desk ones you tear off a new page each day. Some of them might, might have like pictures of cars or trains. I have one on my desk that talks about different beers and breweries. Well, there's ones that have Bible verses. And there's one that I've seen floating around on the internet, and it comes up every so often, and it has a verse on there that makes you think, oh, that sounds really good, until you realize the context. The verse is, all of this I will give you if you worship me. And that makes you feel like, oh, if I worship Jesus, I'll get all this. Except when you realize it comes from the story of Jesus being tempted in the wilderness by Satan. And it's not Jesus telling you, I will give all this to you if you worship me. It is Satan telling Jesus that. So congrats. If you have that calendar and you've seen that verse, it's the devil's words that have made you feel good, not Jesus. And whoever made that calendar probably did not realize that. They just found a real feel-good verse and they threw it on there. That's the risk that you run by taking the Bible out of context. When you're reading the Bible, make sure you look at it in depth. If you're able to, get different translations of the Bible. My go-to translation has for the longest time been the NRSV, or New Revised Standard Edition. There are others out there like the New English Translation, the New International Version, the English Standard Version, the Good News, the Message. Find different translations. Compare them side by side. See what nuances have changed throughout those translations. As I've said before, my biblical Greek professor in seminary always told us in every class that all translators are liars, because all translators come with agendas. So check the different translations of the Bible and see what's different. Try to figure out what's really being said. Don't just take it at face value. Don't just pick things up that make you feel good. Study it, learn it, figure out what they're actually saying. If you don't know, ask someone. Ask your pastor. Ask a friend. Look it up online. Well, actually, no, don't. When you look it up online, be careful. Try to find a reputable source. Don't just find the first thing that pops up. But do your research on it and try to figure it out. The Bible is an amazing tool. It's an amazing group of books. And when used properly, it is wonderful. That's all I have to say for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, and as always, subscribe to the podcast. Share this with your friends and family. Share with anybody who has any questions about the Bible. Spread the good news to all who need it. Have a blessed day.